the stories to your homes. From K.L.P Studios in Atlanta, this is LTN News.
U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs have ignited wildfires across global stock markets. But does that mean we are heading for a recession? The first thing to stress is that what happens in the stock market is not the same as what happens in the economy. Falling share prices do not always mean economic misery ahead. But sometimes they do. Very large falls in stock market values, like these, mean there has been a fundamental reappraisal of future profits for the companies that make up the stock markets of the world. What markets quite reasonably expect is that increased tariffs will mean that costs will rise and profits will fall. That doesn't mean that a recession is inevitable, but the chances are clearly much higher than they were before Trump announced the most severe and wide-ranging tariffs seen in a century. An economy is defined as being in recession when the total of everything we and the government spend or export shrinks for 2 successive 3-month periods. Between October and December last year, the UK economy grew a tiny 0.1%, and the latest monthly data showed it shrank by the same amount in January. The first estimate of how the UK economy fared in February will be released this coming Friday. So, we are a long way off being able to tell whether we have hit that definition. However, in the bloodbath of stock market falls, there are some particularly gory and worrying casualties. Banks are often seen as proxies for economies. As one well-respected market watcher told me today, the thing that made me catch my breath was the fall in the banks. HSBC and Standard Chartered, which operate at the intersection of international trade between East and West, were both down more than 10% overnight before recovering some ground. Other warning signs are not on stock markets but commodity exchanges. Copper and oil prices are considered barometers of global economic health. Both have fallen more than 15% since Trump dropped his tariff bombshell. There haven't been many truly global recessions. The 1930s, the aftermath of the Great Financial Crisis, and the panic around the pandemic are 3 rare examples of when we saw synchronized downturns in major economies. It is still considered unlikely that we would see something on that scale this time, but the chances of recession in the US, UK, and European Union have been significantly upgraded by most economic analysts. On the plus side for UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves, the government's borrowing costs are likely to dip by around £5 billion to £6 billion a year as investors flock to the relative safety of government bonds. But that will be more than offset by hits to government tax receipts if and when the economy as a whole goes into reverse.
From the stories to your homes. From K.L.P Studios in Atlanta, this is LTN News.
2 years ago, rap musician and mogul Sean Diddy Combs threw a lavish 53rd birthday party at his $61 million mansion in Beverly Hills. A host of stars lined up to toast his career, with a guest list that included Jay-Z, Travis Scott, Mary J. Blige, Kehlani, Tinashe, Chris Brown, and Machine Gun Kelly. The party coincided with his 30th year in the music industry. 3 decades in which he formed his own entertainment empire and changed the sound of hip-hop, both as an artist and a producer for the likes of Mariah Carey, Jennifer Lopez, and the Notorious B.I.G. Fast forward to 2024, and his career is on the ropes. In a case filed in New York, the star has been accused of kidnapping, drugging, and coercing women into sexual activities, sometimes through the use of firearms and threats of violence. The same Los Angeles mansion that hosted his birthday party was raided by police in March. Their officers seized supplies that they say were intended for use in orgies known as freak-offs, including drugs and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Mr. Combs has denied all the charges, entering a not guilty plea on Tuesday, September 17th. The court case comes after a year in which the musician has faced lawsuits from a number of women. Here is how the allegations against Mr. Combs have stacked up. Cassandra Ventura, a singer and model known as Cassie, was signed to Mr. Combs' record label and dated him for more than a decade. But in a civil lawsuit, she said the mogul had used his position of power to set the groundwork for a manipulative and coercive romantic and sexual relationship. Her lawsuit included graphic descriptions of violent abuse, alleging that Mr. Combs regularly beat and kicked Ms. Ventura, leaving black eyes, bruises, and blood. She described parties known as freak-offs, drug-fueled, days-long sexual performances, which Mr. Combs allegedly coerced women into and filmed for his own pleasure. Ms. Ventura also accused a musician of sexual abuse and rape, and claimed that many of these incidents were witnessed by his tremendously loyal network, who were not willing to do anything meaningful to stop the violence. The lawsuit also alleged that Mr. Combs destroyed a car belonging to U.S. rapper Kid Cudi to dissuade him from dating her. Mr. Combs strenuously denied the allegations and accused Ms. Ventura of extortion. They settled the case for an undisclosed amount of day after it was filed in New York, with Mr. Combs maintaining his innocence. In the weeks after settling Cassie's lawsuit, Mr. Combs was accused of sexual assault dating back to 1991 by multiple women. One lawsuit was filed anonymously by a woman who claimed Mr. Combs and another man had coerced her into sex. In a second, Joy Dickerson-Neal accused the star of drugging and sexually assaulting her when she was a college student in 1991. She also claimed he filmed the attack and showed it to other people without her consent. A third woman, Liza Gardner, filed court papers accusing Mr. Combs and another man of raping her and her friend more than 30 years ago when she was 16. Ms. Gardner also alleged that Mr. Combs had turned violent days after the attack, choking her so hard that she passed out. In the lawsuit, she said Mr. Combs had become irate while trying to track down her friend because he was worried she would inform the girl he was with at the time. The lawsuits all came shortly before the expiration of the New York Adult Survivors Act, which temporarily allowed people who said they had been sexually abused to file claims, even after the statute of limitations had expired. Mr. Combs denied all the allegations, and his spokesperson called the lawsuits a money grab. Another woman sued in December, claiming she was sex trafficked and gang raped by Mr. Combs, former Bad Boy Records president Harve Pierre, and another man in 2003. When she was 17. In court papers, the woman, known only as Jane Doe, alleged she was given copious amount of drug and alcohol before the attack and was left in so much pain that she could barely stand or remember how she got home. In response, Mr. Combs said he did not do any of the awful things being alleged, while Mr. Pierre said the disgusting allegations were false and a desperate attempt for financial gain.
From LTN News, live from the newsroom, this is One Off with Kennedy Lucas.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to another segment here on LTN News. This is One Off with K.L.P. We hope that you guys been loving the segment. If you missed last week's segment, go check it out on all social media platforms you get your podcast or radio show from. So, without further ado, let me get one off on you guys. So, we all know about the highly anticipated Nintendo Switch. On the second, they had the Nintendo press conference, to which we were right here in the newsroom to talk a little bit more about the presentation, the games that got announced, and so much more coming from the Nintendo Switch. Now, if you guys haven't noticed the latest news updates, the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders have been delayed. Now, I was very, along with a lot of gamers, we were very upset to see these delays happen for the Nintendo Switch 2. This was a very exciting thing for Nintendo to introduce their latest and greatest new system within the Nintendo company, being the Nintendo Switch 2. When we were able to see all of the glitz and glamours for this, being Mario Kart World, down to Donkey Kong Bonanza, down to the latest Metroid installment of Metroid 4 Prime Beyond. Very sad news for us gamers here. I gotta say here on the show, I get that the price of this console, as you guys know, it is $500 for the bundle. It's $450 for the base model of this console, and then $500 with the bundle of Mario Kart World. I understand to a lot of consumers. I understand that a lot of consumers are not too happy about the price of this console. I gotta say, I gotta get one off on you guys. I think, honestly, the Switch 2 is reasonably priced, in my opinion. You got to think about all the other gaming consoles, like the latest Xbox and the latest PlayStation. They both range for $500 when they first came out. I think Nintendo is doing their thing where Nintendo is appealing to the market, right? If we're able to be content with paying $500 per console with other consoles, Nintendo, by all means, as a business, they have to make sure that they get their profit revenue back within the company. You got to think about it like this. And some people might say that this is basic economics. But when it comes down to it, companies like Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft, they have to make sure that they price their console at the right price to where they're making profit returns within the company. This basic business. I do think here, not only in America, but we are big into capitalism here in America. It's all about the dollar bills. So that's why I'm not surprised that they priced this at $500 for this console. Because Nintendo has to understand the market. Nintendo has to understand the global business capitalism when it comes down to their companies. They have to make sure that they get their money back. And I think a lot of people are not understanding that from a business perspective, that Nintendo is a corporation, is a company to where they have to make their money. On the flip side, I do understand when it comes down to the console pricing, and it might be some expensive to consumers. I'm always going to say it. I've said it in podcasts. I've said it in talk shows. I'll say it in this show. I do believe that we are falling on hard times, the economy being because things are more expensive. We talked about it multiple times about things being expensive. Would you spend $500 on going towards your rent, or would you spend $500 for this console? So when I look at it from a consumer standpoint, I understand. I get it. This console might be a little bit too expensive to a lot of people. I think a lot of people may not jump at this console right from the get-go, right? Because it is expensive to some consumers, and people have to worry about their rent. People have to worry about their bills, their light bill, their car note, groceries, right? People have to worry about these things. To some people, it may not phase out too many people. I think a lot of big YouTubers and big tech companies and big reviewers, they're going to have to buy this console because it's part of their job. Right? So that's why I say to a lot of big YouTubers, they may not have it to where this is a big problem to them as a company. Let's say the big YouTubers out there that reviews consoles and reviews video games. I've seen a whole slew within the last week of YouTubers and tech reviewers going out and playing this game hands-on at headquarters, either in New York or in other places, because it's their job. So I think it's affordable to a lot of big YouTubers, but you got to think about the consumer market. And a lot of people think about it, is this anti-consumer? A part of it, some people might say yes, right? A part of it, some people might say yes. Hey, they're anti-consumer. They're thinking about the wallets. They're thinking about the capital revenue that they're going to return on this. We get it. Whole slew of it. Pre-orders were set to go to April 9th. And everybody was very, very, very excited for it. I was excited for it. Regardless, I was going to pre-order the console too to play Mario Kart World and see the new tech, see the new technologies and the new frame rates when it come out to it. As a YouTuber ourselves and a media business ourselves, we would pre-order and buy this console to review, to talk about on our shows as well. It is very strange that Nintendo has it to where the last segment I talked about, that little tech demo game, is called Nintendo Switch Tour is what it's called. It has been announced that demo game is priced. You have to pay for that demo type game for Switch 2. Honestly, I hope Nintendo backtracks that game to where it comes in as a pack-in game. It doesn't make sense to have that game particularly for people to buy it. I think with that demo game being having a price tag attached to it. I don't think Nintendo's going to make a whole lot of money when it comes down to that tech demo. I wouldn't pay for a tech demo, right? When we had it to where you, for an example, in comparison, when PlayStation 5 first came out, you had Asteroid's Playroom as the tech demo to show off the controller, the rumble feature, the dual sense of the controller PlayStation 5. That game was a pack-in game. It was free. Now, it wasn't a fully lengthy game of Astrobot, right? Astrobot's the full-length game that, of course, you got to pay for that. But Asteroid's Playroom was just kind of a tech demo to show you this is what's coming next with PlayStation 5. And we were able to get that game for free, which was exciting. But now Nintendo being Nintendo, yes, you got to pay for that. And it's very, very interesting. I honestly think that pack-in game, Nintendo Switch Tour, should be free. But, Nintendo, we hope that you backtrack on that. That's just my big take on that. So a whole slew of games came out. Whole lot of YouTube reviewers did their thing. They reviewed the Switch, and we're very, very excited about the Switch 2. I think a lot of people, when it came down to Nintendo Treehouse was a video, or it's a channel, but it's a slew of videos where a lot of people who were on the Nintendo Treehouse stream show, they showed off some of the games. I think that's pretty cool, because you get to see, I watched about an hour game footage of Mario Kart World. I watched about an hour game footage of Donkey Kong Bonanza. I've watched about 30 minutes of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Very, very awesome. And the one thing that people was kind of protesting about, hashtag drop the price. Now, when I saw this, and this is just giving you guys an analysis of this. When I saw this, I knew something bad was going to happen after that, right? Things tend to happen, bad or good, whether people protest or not. There's a lot of things that happens within this that people will start a protest about, and sometimes it ends with good results. I think this kind of ended up in a bad result. Everybody's been tweeting, Instagramming, threading, Facebooking, drop the price. I think, like I said, and like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are very, very scarce about the cost of this console, and they don't want to pay that full $500. It's very interesting. Mario Kart World is marketed, this game, the MSRP for Mario Kart World is $80. Now, I get it. From a consumer standpoint as well, I understand. $80 is a lot for a video game. But I got to say, I think it's kind of our fault. Because when Nintendo started to advertise $70 for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, that was the first $70 game from Nintendo. You got to think about all the other exclusive games, especially for PlayStation 5, for an example. PlayStation 5 gave us a lot of AAA titles from their studio, and they ranged that for $70. And from a consumer standpoint, we were willing to pay $70. We weren't happy about it when they first started the price tag of $70 for a video game. We were not happy about that at first, y'all. But we adapted. We came to the conclusion like, hey, it's $70. It is what it is. We're going to start paying $70 within a video game. So, a lot of these game companies say, if the consumer is willing to pay $70 for a video game, hey, we might as well increase our games to $70. If they're willing to pay that much, because when, for an example, PlayStation, when they market their AAA games for $70 and we were so willing to pay it, PlayStation received so much money from that. So we can't be so mad at Nintendo for following the same blueprint that Xbox and PlayStation did. Now, do I think $80 is a little bit ridiculous for Mario Kart World? Yes, of course. But here's how they get you. And you got to think about this from a business standpoint. I think a lot of people are going to buy between $450 and $500 for Switch 2. Most people are going to get the $500 bundle, right? Because you think about the base system is $450. And then if you don't buy the bundle, you got to get the game outside. That's $80. So you might be spending about $530 ish, if my math is right, for the base model in Mario Kart World. But you have the option to get the bundle for just $500. So you're saving about $30, $40 off. Because when the bundle happens, the Switch 2 bundle with Mario Kart bundled in, essentially that game is $50 within the bundle. Very, very tough times that we're in. I honestly got to say, I think as consumers, because I'm one of them, right? As consumers, I think we're so used to paying that $80, $70, $60 price tag for a video game because other companies did it first. Right? And now Donkey Kong Bonanza, that game is $70. I do think a lot of people are looking at it now, even if with the physical, and that's just the digital, right? We didn't even talk about the physical. That's just the digital. As of now, the physical copy of Mario Kart World, the MSRP for that is $90. That is close to a $100 price tag for a physical copy of a video game. And Donkey Kong Bonanza, as of today, as of the recording, as of the show, the MSRP for a physical copy for Donkey Kong Bonanza is $80. But you can get the digital version for $70. Right? I do think we're in some tough times. I think a lot of people are still going to buy it. And I think this is going to be, it's kind of scary. I know a lot of people don't like it. I know a lot of people hate the idea of paying so much for a gaming console and video games, but that is the new norm right now. That's going to become where it becomes a standard. And when it becomes a standard, it is scary. So as people were protesting the drop the price on the Switch 2, honestly, I got to say it, I might be one of them. The price kind of justifies it, right? You've got better hardware. Although I think Nintendo should have had it to where you can have OLED in this one for the price. That would have been a nice touch. That's coming soon. I'm sure Nintendo will be developing Nintendo Switch 2 OLED edition. I'm pretty sure of it. But everybody's been tweeting about drop the price. Everybody's been tweeting about that. And within the week, we've got some unfortunate news. Now, typically I don't like to go politics, but I guess we have to go politics a little bit within this show here. This is coming from thevox.com. It's been a big week for global economy and for gamers. On Wednesday, this past Wednesday, President Donald Trump unveiled sweeping tariffs that sent markets spiraling worldwide. On the same day, Nintendo has announced a much anticipated handheld console gaming, the Switch 2. It would have been at the price of $450, $500 for the bundle, including Mario Kart game from the company's pre-orders from the Nintendo website will be open on early May to only the most dedicated users of the first generation Switch with a June 5th release date. And let me tell you what that means. Nintendo has scrapped the plans for the April 9th pre-order. Very, very upsetting for some gamers out there, me, myself included, because within the $500 price tag, yes, I was going to pre-order, buy the game, wait for June to come out, play it so I can review it on our channels, and I can write about it on the Lucas Tribune. Very, very, very sad to say that there will no longer be the pre-order of April 9th. It's unfortunate for gamers. It's unfortunate for Nintendo, because Nintendo had it to where, let me tell you, and I'll tell you guys how pre-orders work. Just in case for some people who may not know. Pre-orders are very, very special to companies because it's like saying, hey, we'll give you the money up front and then you're promising the product later. That's kind of what pre-order means. But it's really good for companies because let's just say Switch consoles, the first one, they sold the first Switch console by November of last year. 46 million Switch consoles were sold for the company. Very, very great. That's great numbers. This would have been to where Switch 2 pre-orders alone, we probably would have saw a lot of few million pre-orders within Nintendo because this is the highly anticipated console. That's why I say this is very sad for Nintendo to hold on the April 9th pre-order list, because now we're not able to pre-order no longer on April 9th, and we don't know. Nintendo's developing all of these systems, and it costs money to produce these systems. With the tariffs, is going to cost them more now to get these things imported to the U.S. because of the Trump tariffs. It's very, very unfortunate. It is very, very unfortunate because now with tariffs and in politics, with tariffs, not only affects groceries, cars, automobiles, but it's also affecting the games too. And it's slim pickings because not only is Nintendo, but you've got every other company from China or Japan who is developing games and game consoles and game technology for us in the U.S. Now there is potentially up to over 50% tariffs on that. It's unfortunate. It questions how much will this console be now that we have the tariffs unfortunately imported on us and for the countries outside, with the 50%, over 50% tariffs on companies worldwide, all over the world, that's trying to import their stuff to us. I hope we don't see a $700 price tag to this thing. Again, I'm not anti-consumer, but to my consumers out there, you have to understand now that we have these tariffs on here. And this is the part where I say, in my opinion, that we complained about the $500 price tag. We may have not. We wish we didn't do that, because now that tariffs are up within this console, Nintendo has to have a backup plan. They have to reevaluate some of this stuff, right? We complained about the $500 price tag, but now with them tariffs in the way, we might see it be more than $500. Case in point, you guys got to think about the company. If they got to get taxed higher on something to get imported to the U.S., now they got to charge up for it, right? They got to charge more because they as a company, they still got to make their money, right? If they got over 50%, and this is just politics as of today, that might change, but if it's over 50% tariffs right now, Nintendo say, hey, we're up 50% in tariffs. It costs $500, but we got to add them taxes in there. We got to charge the consumer more now because of these tariffs. So a part of me says, I wish we didn't complain about the $500 price tag, because now things might change a little bit. There's a quote here from a senior fellow at the Mansfield Foundation. They said it is a pricing issue that is direct response to the tariffs. That was Shihoko Goto. He's a senior fellow at the Mansfield Foundation, specialized in trade and economic interests across the Indo-Pacific. He says another thing too. This is just one example of one product from one company being hit by tariffs. We're going to see prices increases all across the board. And the question from Voxay says, why Nintendo might increase its prices. Nintendo, a Japanese company, took prehensive steps to avoid tariffs during the first Trump administration. Now in 2019, it started moving some of the Switch products from China to Vietnam as the U.S. imposed tariffs on Chinese imports. Now the U.S. is effectively punishing companies like Nintendo that took Trump incentives to leave China for friendlier partners like Vietnam, which was a large producer in consumer electronics, shoes, and clothes. Now Vietnam has hit with 46% tariffs, one of the highest rates on the schedule that the White House unveiled on Wednesday. Look, these are very, very spooky times. I kind of wish people didn't protest about drop the price. I kind of wish that, because now that the tariffs are in the way, Now this console might be more. Might be more. And I did read up on it that Nintendo is finding ways, and this is on media, Nintendo might have another idea. If you still want the pre-order, now it's a little tricky. From one website, they say if you are a Nintendo Switch Online member for at least 1 year and you logged about 50 to 56 hours of gameplay and you're an active member for 1 year, 12 months, you'll have been sent an exclusive invitational email about a time frame of where you can pre-order the Switch 2 in the bundle. I've seen it on social media. People from different companies or different countries, rather, they're buying their systems for $430. I've seen a lot of followers out there on media where they pre-ordered and were able to pre-order at the $500 price tag. I think we here in US I kind of wish we didn't complain about the $500 price tag, because now that these tariffs are in effect, we might see this console go up to $600. I don't want to see this console go up to $700. But it's kind of I don't want to say it's our fault, but it's kind of our fault for complaining about the $500 price tag. But then again, it's politics. It's something we can't control. It's who we, not we as in me, but who we voted into office. So it's a whole lot of political standpoints that come to these things. It's very, very sad times. I really hope that we understand. I don't think it's just affecting game consoles. It's affecting clothes, shoes, groceries that are coming from different countries as well. So it's going to be very, very tough. It's going to be very, very slim pickings, and I think this is gonna hurt the consumer and Nintendo. Again, it's going to hurt Nintendo because they're going to be losing money from the US, because a lot of consumers may not be able to afford this console with these tariffs in the way. I think a lot of people now, which I think a lot of people should be, a lot of people are very, very tight-hold with their money now. A lot of people are very, very frugal within their money nowadays because things are expensive. I say things may not be expensive to the consumers who don't have major responsibilities. I'll say this on the show. I'm part of one of those people. I have bills, right? But I don't have a wife and kids and have to worry about the kids getting diapers and food and taking care of kids. I don't have to really worry about these stuff. But I think about the families who likes Nintendo, who bought the Nintendo GameCube, who bought the Nintendo Wii, who bought their kids 3DSs, and who bought the Nintendo Switch 1 back in the day. Now it's going to be very, very slim pickings when it comes down to the Switch 2. Again, slim pickings. I hope everyone stays at it. That's going to wrap it up here. LTN News here. We hope that you guys enjoy the show here today for tonight. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching it on our YouTube. And if you're watching it on Spotify video, Facebook watch, we thank you guys as well. And if you're listening to us on any audio platform you get your podcast or radio show from, we'd love to hear it from that as well. Again, until next time, we'll see you in later on podcasting noon. Stay tuned. Tomorrow morning, we'll be back into the studio to give you guys another episode of K.L.P. Aftermath Podcast. Until then, I've been your host from LTN News, Kennedy Lucas, saying so long, good night, and stay swanky.